This is what the Roman Forum looked like in 1864, and this is what it looks like today. When archaeologists first began digging here, they expected to find a few broken columns and scattered ruins. Instead, they uncovered an entire forgotten world buried deep underground. Streets, temples, marketplaces, all hidden beneath the modern city. Over centuries, Rome's street level had risen by more than 10 meters, completely swallowing its ancient buildings. And Rome isn't unique. All over the world, ancient cities are slowly disappearing beneath modern streets. Layer by layer, civilizations are building directly on top of their own past. But why does this keep happening? Is the ground itself rising? And why does human history always end up buried underground? To understand this, we recreated the process to show exactly how cities stack themselves over time. There is no single reason why ancient ruins are underground, but one of the biggest causes is destruction, followed by rebuilding. Take ancient Rome. In the 1st century, the Great Fire of Rome tore through the city, destroying homes, temples, and entire neighborhoods. Clearing all that rubble would have taken enormous time, money, and labor. So instead, people chose the fastest solution. They flattened the debris and built directly on top of it. New buildings now stood higher than the old streets. To keep everything level, the streets were raised and resurfaced using broken stone, soil, and debris from the ruins. Every major fire, flood, or collapse repeated this process. Each disaster pushed the city slightly higher and buried the past a little deeper. One of the clearest examples of this is the Basilica of San Clemente in Rome. What you see today is a church built in the 12th century, but directly beneath it lies a 4th century basilica. Below that, a pagan temple, and beneath that, a Roman house from the 1st century. All of it stacked in a single vertical column of history. Over time, the valley where San Clemente stands rose by nearly 18 meters. Originally, a Roman villa occupied the site. After being damaged by fire, it was converted into a temple by followers of Mithras, a mysterious cult that spread throughout the Roman Empire. By the end of the 4th century, Christianity had become dominant. Parts of the temple were destroyed, and a Christian basilica was built directly on top of it. That basilica served the community for hundreds of years. But as fires and rebuilding continued across the city, the surrounding street level slowly rose. By the 12th century, the old basilica sat far below the streets. Rather than demolish it, builders constructed a new church directly above it. Eventually, the lower structures were filled in. No records were kept, and over time, all memory of the earlier buildings disappeared. Until the 19th century, when archaeologists began digging beneath the church, they uncovered the earlier basilica, a staircase descending into the 1st century Mithraic temple, and rooms untouched for over 1,000 years. But Rome is just one example. Across the Middle East, there are strange, flat-topped hills known as tells. Even the name Tel Aviv comes from this phenomenon. These hills are not natural. They are formed by centuries of people building, destroying, and rebuilding in the same place. Inside each tell is a layered archive of human civilization. One of the most famous tells is the ancient city of Troy. Troy was first settled around 3000 BC. Most of its buildings were made from mud brick. When these structures collapsed or were destroyed, rain and time caused them to slowly decompose back into soil. New settlers arrived, leveled the ground, and built again on top. Over thousands of years, at least 9 different civilizations occupied Troy, from early Bronze Age societies to the Persians to Alexander the Great, and finally the Romans. Around 500 AD, the nearby port dried up, trade stopped. The city was abandoned. Slowly, Troy blended back into the landscape, becoming nothing more than a hill until archaeologists rediscovered it centuries later. In most cases, humans are responsible for burying their own cities. But sometimes, cities aren't buried because they rise. They're buried because they sink. Shanghai is currently sinking by around 1 centimeter every year. Over the last century, parts of the city have dropped nearly 3 meters. For generations, groundwater was pumped from beneath the city for drinking and industry. As the water was removed, the soil compressed. Add the enormous weight of modern skyscrapers on top, and the ground slowly collapses beneath the city. When cities sink too far, the only way to survive is to build upward. That's exactly what happened in Seattle. In 1889, a massive fire destroyed most of the young city. Instead of rebuilding at the same level, city leaders decided to raise it. Stone walls, up to 6 meters high, were constructed along the streets. New roads were built above the old ones, creating an entirely new street level. For years, people lived and worked 2 stories below the roads. Shops were reached by ladders. Sidewalks floated above their doorways. Eventually, the empty space was filled in, sealing an entire city beneath modern Seattle. So ancient ruins aren't underground because they were forgotten. They're underground because civilization never stands still. Fires, floods, collapsing buildings, sinking land, and human convenience all push cities upward. And beneath almost every modern city, there is another city, a silent record of everything that came before.